My name is Frankie Loyal. I'm here at Born Free 15 with my Trinidad 3 family and my extended family from Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. I'm going to be conducting some interviews with the people who shape, motivate, and inspire our motorcycle community. I'm here to find out their motivations, inspirations, and future aspirations, all from a two-wheeled perspective. So I want to see where the stories take us. We're going to let the stories commence, and I'm here with my friend Otto, who I know from the Biltwell Company. Otto, how you doing? It's good to have you here.
Frankie, it's good to be here. Thanks for asking me to be here. I'm humbled.
Brief backstory, I met Otto actually during the production of Mayans MC when I was always on the lookout for a good helmet, and Otto and Biltwell have been more than gracious and just they've always looked out for me, and they're one of the companies that I'm proud to represent their product, but the people that work at Biltwell are also great people. I know you're here at Born Free. I know that you're at a lot of these events, whether it's the Kernville Cookout or Camp Out. I see you. What's going on? What's been up with you lately?
We're in event season, so yeah, we're doing a lot of things, and then in between these things, I still like to ride motorcycles, so I try to squeeze in some rides.
Right.
I just did a nice 1,300-mile ride up to Sacramento. I have a swap meet up there 6 times a year. My wife and I rode up there, so we went up the 49, which is like the west side of the Sierras, and then we came down the 395, which is the east side of the Sierras, and we were just out, chasing some of that California gold. And,
Nice.
So yeah, work in the motorcycle community, but also try to ride when I can. So just doing that summertime, SoCal, you know how it is. It gets a little busy.
Right. How did you find yourself over at Biltwell?
I found myself at Biltwell because I was into motorcycles. I would see the Biltwell ads in the magazines back when magazines were a thing.
Right.
The ads look cool. I said, man, these guys look like they party and and they ride and they hang out. And so I started to hang out with them. That's when I figured out they do ride, but also they work a lot, and they're passionate about what they do. And the first job I did for them is they had bought a building and I built their offices. I'm a contractor by trade, general contractor. That was my previous life. So I built their offices, and they said, "Oh, that's cool, and you ride, and you go to the swap meets already. Maybe you can go to the swap meet for us. You do some events. Maybe you could do some events for us. You do this new thing called social media already. You're on Facebook at the time. You have a blog. I had a little blog back in the day. Maybe you can help us with some of those things for us, And I luckily transitioned out of construction and just more and more motorcycle stuff. I was always being raised in Southern California. My dad drugged me around swap meets. My mom drugged me around to estate sales and antique shops. So old crusty things have always been stuff I've been enamored with.
Right.
And motorcycles and hot rods and cars. Again, being born and raised in Southern California, those are things that lowriders, bikes, they're ingrained whether you know it or not. You know what I mean? I knew it. My parents had some rental houses when I was a kid. We grew up in Elsinore. I was born right here in Fullerton, but lived in LA for a little bit, and then we moved to Elsinore. And my parents had rentals, and 80s, the people that rented rentals were who you would think would rent the rentals. And man, my parents rented this one house for a while. This guy named Gypsy, he was in a club. Man, he had panheads, he had lowriders. He bought my mom's Volkswagen Bug. A week later, came back, it was lowered, Fuke wheels, Ken would pull out, you know what I mean, baby blue.
Right.
He was living the life, and unfortunately for me, living the life was attractive, and I got into some problems with drugs and alcohol, and I thought I wanted to live that life. Turns out I don't, used to like, drugs and alcohol and Slayer, and now I like Asahi Bowls and the Bengals and iced tea, but anyway, those things influenced me, and those things still influence me growing up. My dad had bikes, Panhead and stuff like that, and Ariel. I still have one of my dad's old bikes. But that's what got me in. I started working with Biltwell. Again, back to your question, doing construction, started to do a little more. I mentioned I'm sober. I have a sobriety date, but I also have a construction sobriety date. Being into construction is like the mafia or drugs and alcohol. It's hard to get out, man. It's hard to get out. They just keep pulling you right back in,
Try to go out and they pull me back in.
It's the truth, especially in Southern California. You grow up, you're dumb like me. You don't have a lot of options. I don't got a face like Frankie, so ain't no TV shows calling me. It's just
I got a face for radio, man.
It's like, yeah, can you be at the job site at 5? Yeah, I guess. That's where I was at. So I saw, I had a little proverbial Y in the road,
Right.
construction, or maybe do something you like, and I had a chance to do something I like. And
Right.
most of us don't get into motorcycles to get rich. We do it because we like it, and been doing motorcycle things for 15 plus years, and I still like it. I still enjoy it. I love being at Born Free. There's some haters that hate on Born Free. They probably, maybe they don't like motorcycles, or they've never been, because if you love motorcycles, custom, new, old, or otherwise, they're here. And there's no place really on earth where you're going to see as many in 1 or 2 or 3 days as you will at Born Free, you know, and especially the ones that I kind of like. I'm a little biased, again, growing up on the West Coast. We build them the best, we influence them still the most. And it's not that we're profoundly more talented, I don't think. I think it's that we just have more riding days, you know what I mean? So the innovation happens at a quicker pace, on the East Coast, they're snowed in. They have 2 more months of winter, and they just keep building and tweaking. And over here, we're like, man, we're riding, and if it falls off, we probably don't need it, you know what I mean? So we're not putting it back on. And so those guys, that's what sets the style, whether, again, people want to admit it or not, but frequently it does. And so we've always been at the forefront: custom cars, motorcycles, skateboarding, BMX, things that I grew up with as well. We're innovating because we can, because the weather's nice. It's like today, it's a little hot, but still, you go get on your whip and you're going to go for a ride. And if something ain't right on your bike, you're probably not changing too much, because you want to ride again tomorrow.
Right.
You're not tearing it down to paint it. You want to ride tomorrow.
Right. So you did BMX too?
Of course. Yeah, all those things. I mean,
What'd you ride?
I had a Raleigh, I had a Hutch,
Nice.
GT, of course, a bunch of bikes. I would do a little bit of racing, and yeah, I think that's why motorcycles were attractive to me, because if you rode a bicycle, you knew that was freedom.
Right.
And you also knew that when you're on a bicycle, it's a little bit of a meditation machine. You're kind of focused on what you're doing. And as a kid, you look at a motorcycle and you say, well, that's the next level.
Right.
I would be, in my mom's car, and we'd be driving, and I look at the guy on the motorcycle at the stoplight. I'm like, one day, my mom was like, hey, no, never.
Right.
I'm like, first off, don't tell me never.
Right.
And second off, yeah, Mom, yeah.
Similar stories.
So you get older, you're like, dude, I'm getting one of those things. It's gonna kill you. Well, I don't care.
Right.
I'm doing it. So motorcycles are just an extension of that, and again, the freedom, and then they just demand your full attention. So if you're like me, you have this crazy ADHD brain, that has a hard time chilling out. Motorcycles just make you focus, because if not, you're in the ditch. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well, it's crazy because I used to race BMX as a kid too, so it kind of segued to all that. And where I kind of regressed on it a little bit once is I did charity, and I met Mike Buff, BMX legend Mike Buff.
Yes, I do know.
And at first I was like, is that really him? And he goes, I wanted to come out, and then we went out. He goes, well, let's go and have lunch sometime, and we did. And then he goes, hey, you walk me to my vehicle. I said, yeah, sure. I'll walk you to your vehicle, Mike Buff, like my BMX hero. And when I did, there was 2 of the cruisers, his custom line. And he goes, that one's mine, that one's yours. And he customized, a cruiser for me. And he goes, let's go ride. And we rode around LA a little bit. And I remember reverting back to being that 12, 13-year-old kid, where I'd read about him in BMX Plus and BMX Action, and I'm like, I was riding with my hero. It was like so great, and then, and then obviously it segued into motorcycles. So now you mentioned that you're sober. Like, do you find a difference between the two, as far as just not even the fact of staying on, on the 2 wheels, but perspective-wise when you're riding sober, as opposed to maybe other ways?
You just appreciate things. You have a clear head. Your perspective is much more in tune, and my view is not so askew. And I had a lot of dreams when I was drinking and drugging, and not many of them came to fruition.
Right.
Except I got to live the life that I thought I wanted.
Right.
And I'm not a big tough guy, but I got some dumb criminal junk that piled up. And then I was living the life, and it was not going well for me, so getting sober, I got kind of the ghost of Christmas past and the ghost of Christmas future showed up, and I was like, well, which way you want to go? Because it ain't looking good if you keep going down this road, and
I can relate.
Yeah,
I can relate.
Getting sober, man. Now all of a sudden, I got to do the stuff I wanted. If I wasn't sober, I'd probably still be in construction. And for me, and I don't hate on construction. I've actually been doing more of it lately because I get to pick and choose, and that's what I do like. I work with some guys that are talented on some things that I want to work on. But but I didn't have the choice, you know, and I like having the freedom of choice that a sober lifestyle gives me. And I haven't been sober as long as Frankie, but I've been sober a minute, and because of that, yeah, I got some of the gifts that we get. You know, I have a good job. I've been at this job longer than I was at any job. You know, I have a beautiful wife, so beautiful. You know, we're married, and I got a ring, and it means something to me. And I never had those things, you know. And I got tags on my bike that I didn't scrape off your bike. You know what I mean? They're my tags.
Right.
I got a current California driver's license. I got a motorcycle license. They let me carry a gun legally. You know what I mean? All these things. Before, I didn't have any of those things.
Right.
You know? If I had plates, they were your plates. You know, if I had a car, it was a bucket because I knew I was going to get pulled over sooner or later, and I was going to leave it, you know, or I was going to crash it, you know, and I didn't bother with girlfriends, you know, because sooner or later they're going to figure out I was a dummy and they're going to bounce anyway. So and that's not the case now. So I got a good life, and I try to remain grateful. Frankie will tell you that if you stay grateful, all the rest is easy. You know, so he probably does things that help him stay grateful. I try to do things that help me stay grateful. I'm sure this is going to segue into, my wife's had a charity that helps down bikers. Russ Brown helps down bikers, you know, helping people out, gives me the feeling like drugs and alcohol kind of used to give me, but for a much longer period of time, you know. I like to help people because I feel good, and if I'm being honest, I do it because it makes me feel good, you know. I hope it helps them too, you know, and I think that we do a lot of times through some of these things we do with charities for people, dogs, people that get hurt in accidents, and I have a lot of good friends in Baja, so that's one of my other chosen, you know, places to help is I got an orphanage in Baja that I really love to help, and man, I do it because it helps me, and if I'm not Frankie Loyal. I'm kind of a wussy, so if I start talking about the Baja thing, I'll get teared up. But man, I mean, that's the high right there that I chase nowadays. Is that high, and it's way better, and it's and I can't go to jail for it either. You know what I mean? So, well, I'm into it.
I got to say, so I had an interview. I did three out of the 4 interviews I did. One was Neil Zarama, who was one of the builders. I grew up with Neil, and we were talking yesterday. And I was like, the way we lived before we got to where we did, because he brought his 2 sons. I was like, I never thought we'd be here 30 years later talking. And then when I heard they announced that he won, I was super proud. Like, because, you know, I know how he came up. Anthony Robinson, another builder, you know.
I saw his bike.
Same thing. Yeah, it's like they're grounded, good, humble guys.
Yeah.
I just talked to Frank Ball, Jr., same thing, you know, sober, grounded, has a good woman, you know, just puts her on blast because he's so proud of her, which is awesome.
Yeah,
it's great. And the way you are, and I met your lady, and she is awesome. And I remember she had Moto Fam at one time, right?
Yeah,
which helped down bikers.
Yep.
As well. And you're extremely humble, and you're not a dummy.
Yeah,
I mean, we all make
depends
dumb
on who
choices,
you ask.
but nah. And that's the whole thing. I mean, the fact when you get the deal, and then like I said, you know, you've been super gracious to me. And I appreciate that because, you know, a lot of people don't realize, and I tell people sometimes, you know, when they talk about the show, I forget that I did a show because I was so, I lost everything. I got it back. So to do the work that was in front of me, I was going from the next script to the next script, hoping I didn't die. You know, they didn't kill me off on the show or even riding to work, you know. So I forgot that it was out there for the world to watch. So I'm always in disbelief of that. And I like to pay things forward because I got a lot of help. I lost everything. People helped me along the way. When I had to keep my head protected, you helped me. And like I said, you know, every time I was in a pinch, you and Biltwell helped me out. It meant a lot. It wasn't like I expected anything, but it was just such a gracious, kind act. And like I said, I had a head injury last year. So it's like, you know, I feel protected when I'm on the road. And, you know, you have a great product, and everybody over that company's been super cool to me.
Well, you lived up to your name, Frankie Loyal. I've helped a lot of people through the years, and they have used Biltwell or me as a stepping stone, and that's okay, you know. But I'll help somebody, and then I'll see them wearing another helmet or doing something else, and how quick they forget. And again, it's okay. I've been doing this long enough to know sometimes that's the way the cracker crumbles. But when Frankie Loyal keeps hitting us up, I need the new color. Do you have a visor? Yeah, man, I'm into it. You know, I like the Loyal stuff. For work, Man, we work with like the same brands over and over because I know what to expect. I can trust them, and the same with us. They can trust us, and so Thorogood boots we love. You know, S&S motors we love. We've been working with all the same guys for a long time, so we try to keep those relationships good because it's a little bit easier to deliver when you know what to expect and,
Right.
and they know what to expect.
And what's cool though too is just even with Biltwell itself. You know, it's like when I was at Cook's Corners the other night. You know, I got there a little bit late and I wanted to go say hi to Rhonda, and you know, you have the big Biltwell setup over there, and it's just when I see the name, it's like, yeah, yeah, you know, and I like repping it, but it's just what you know how you all carry yourselves. It's just strong, and it's consistent, and you know, those are accolades. I hope you and the people over at Biltwell, I hope you realize that. I know you're all humble, but I hope you realize that, you know, that means something. It really does.
Well, thanks. I'm glad you noticed. We try to do the right thing. I don't always do the right thing. If I do, I have to think about it. It's not my first instinct often,
Right.
but learning to be better at it. And I got bosses that are pretty good at doing the right thing. And yeah, we do actually. The core group of us, we love motorcycles. We want to help people. Well, one boss is, you know, U.S. Marine, and
Nice.
the other boss is knee deep in BMX back in the day, you know, and they've seen companies come and go, and they send people come and go, and they know that the guys that stick around are the guys that are just trying to do the right thing, you know,
Right.
and that's what we try to do. And you know, in the motorcycle, we're in the, I would say, like we are one of the newer motorcycle companies, but I think we're year, you know, 14, 15, 16, something like that. So in our small niche, like born free-ish niche,
Right.
you know, obviously S&S been around a long time, Harley Davidson been around over 100 years, but a lot of these companies, 15 years is a long time. You know, we're one of the older brands out there, and we hope to continue to be like that. And
Right.
if you know anything about brands, you know, like that 15-year mark, 16 is when things can change and peter out. So it's something we got to try to be cognizant of, and
Right.
and stay on our P's and Q's, and keep making stuff that we like and we believe in. That's kind of been, it's not a secret, but
Right.
it makes your job easier. If you're passionate about it, then you're going to want to work hard, you know. And if you don't like what you do, you're just going to punch the clock, you know.
Right.
And for me, I know if there's a lot better jobs that pay more, if that's all I wanted to do was punch a clock, you know,
Right.
and go work for the water district or city of LA or whatever, if that was what I was into. But man,
Right.
I want to do something fun, you know. I mean, I do have that gene. When I was a young kid, I read Huck Finn, and I said, sign me up.
Right.
I just want to float down the river with my buddy fishing
Right.
and tricking people into painting my fence, you know what I mean? You know, and that book kind of ruined me. And then yeah, I got into BMX. I said, I can, my mom can't catch me. I can get far enough away. She ain't gonna find me. I'll be gone for a couple days, you know. And I kept with it. And motorcycles are just the next thing, you know. Let me go on a venture. I'm gonna go ride to Baja. We're gonna camp on the beach. The lady's house on the hill. She's gonna make us fish. I never made her, but she's real nice, and
Nice.
she's probably a good cook, you know. And just keep going with that kind of Huck Finn.
Right. I just want to backtrack a little bit. You said the owners was a Marine.
Yeah.
That's amazing. My business partner Trinidad is a Marine. Christian, who's filming us over there, he's also a Marine. So,
Yeah.
you know, on the Loyal gene, we have a red blood stripe. That's an homage to the Marine Corps. That's Trinidad's idea. So
A lot
kudos
of
to your boss. Yeah.
I wasn't a Marine. I was chicken. I was too loaded to do anything at that age. But a lot of our events, if you come to them, we use local Marines. I got a couple good buddies that are active duty, and they always help me find guys. So we bring these guys to work. One of my buddy Taylor, he was just in the booth right now, and his wife or his girlfriend. Taylor, I need 8 guys for Kernville, you know, and he'll bring a couple old guys and he'll bring a couple young guys. And during their day, they're real nice and they identify potential problem people. And then at night, they're real assertive, you know, and they'll ask you once nicely, and the second time they're gonna ask you to leave, you know. So the Marines that continue to help us with our events at Biltwell, that's what has differentiated us, I think, from a lot of other companies, is that we put on some pretty good events.
Right. Yeah, you
know,
do.
we have a bunch of different ones. We have a trade show. We have a desert race. We have a camp out.
I like the camp out.
We had last night or 2 nights ago the little People's Champ bike show, which segues. It gets guys from all over the world. This year, the winner was from New Zealand. It got his bike put into the show at Born Free with the invited builders. So for those guys, that's like a big feather for their cap. They all want to come to Born Free. You know what I mean? And a lot of those guys are farm team. They ain't never gonna get the invite and without the help of like a People's Champ bike show. So that's what we've been doing and try to grow the community through events, through grassroots stuff. We typically, the events that we do, you know, they're riding events. You know, it's not a party in a parking lot. There's nothing wrong with those. You know, you could go to the Thursday night bike night at whatever Harley Davidson dealer, and they give you a hot dog, and that's cool. And you could pump up your chest, and you know, wear your new Frankie Loyal jeans too. But we
Balls busted.
yeah, but I can only do it on mic because he can't hit me. But we want to invite him to, like, hey, ride the Baja.
Yeah.
You're tough. Let's see it.
Yeah.
You know, the only thing you can put on your bike that makes it cooler is not a helmet or handlebars. It's miles.
Right.
You want to make your bike cool? Put some fucking miles on it. You know what I mean?
Right on.
And that's where it's at.
Hell yeah.
So we try to have those events. You know, ride your bike in the desert. Ride your bike up to Kernville. Come party with your buddies, and
I'll be there at
you
Kernville
know,
for sure.
Yeah, I seen you there before, and I'm like, man, Frankie Loyal, it must be slow weekend. He showed up at Kernville. What's going on? Or he got lost, took the wrong turn probably.
It was intentional. I'll tell you what. I'll be at the next one.
Yeah.
I want to let you know I really appreciated the time you took with me. I know we're busy with Born Free and we're winding things down, but it's always good to talk to you. But it's nice that we actually got to sit and talk across from each other face to face. And you and Biltwell, I want to thank you, Trinidad 3, Russ Brown Motorcycle Attorneys. Thanks for spending the time with us. We really appreciate it.
Man, you know what? Probably 1 out of 10 or 15 dudes I meet from like older heroes from skateboarding or guys from, you know, the movie industry, you know, like 1 out of 10, 1 out of 15, like, do I get a real one, you know? And with you, it was pretty immediate, like, oh, this is a real one.
Thank you, brother.
You
I
know?
appreciate that.
And I mean, it means a lot to me. You help my wife's charity, which we're wrapping up, and she's kind of going more into dog charities, but I appreciate that. She appreciates it. So
Well, give her my best, and once again, thanks for being here with us.
and thanks for humbling to ask me to come out here. So thank you
Good
very
to
much.
have you here.
All right.
So this is Otto from Biltwell. I'm Frankie Loyal. Once again, Born Free 15. Thank you very much. Y'all ride safe out there, and we'll see you again.